Okay, I'm going to tie a copper john. I'm using size 12 hooks and what is it, size 7/64 bead. I just slide the bead up over the hook, the smaller hole forward so that it stops the eyelet. It's set up in the vise right here. Alright, I'm using a brown thread, 6/0 thread. You can use whatever color you want. Sometimes you want a little bit lighter color. Thread back to the end of the straight part of the shank of the hook. Snip off your... Alright, I'm using goose biot for the tail. So it's kind of difficult to work with, but it makes for a really nice tail. So basically all I'm doing is I'm just bending this over so I can find out which 2 strands I want. Pick a couple fat biots and snip them. So what I end up with, I don't know if you can see this very well, but 2 tail pieces. Now there's a way you can lay these flat over the top of the hook, like that. But the easiest way I found, and it seems to work just fine, is they have kind of a curve to them. So I put them back to back so that they kind of curve out. I don't know if you can see this very well, but they kind of curve out like that, and I lay that flat on top of the hook. And it actually looks really good. Kind of imitates an insect tail a lot better than the other way, I think. Plus it's easier to do. So get that on there. Whenever you wrap material on when you're doing a small nymph, make sure you always wrap it all the way forward, all along here, so that you end up not having any big lumps or anything. I'm going to use a red wire for the body. I think with your fly that you were talking about tying, you're going to use a blue wire. It doesn't really matter the color. Personal preference, fish preference. So when I tie the wire on, I tie the wire on from about 3/4 down the body all the way back. That's how far I'm going to be tying the abdomen of the fly. Bring it forward to, like I said, about 3/4 down the hook from the back. And then I evenly wrap the wire forward to create the abdomen. So see how I'm wrapping it forward like this. This is where it's really nice to have this fancy vise, because if I want to, all I gotta do is loosen it up. I just spin it like this. I can get it real even. Okay, get to where I want it. I will just tie it off. Alright. At the end. Now for the thorax cover shell that goes over the top of the fly. You can use all kinds of things. You can use a flashy material, a flashback. I've got some craft material here that I've used for scuds before. You could cut off a chunk of that, fold it over the top. More traditionally, I think they use like a black back. So what I'm going to do is just take another chunk of goose biot, since you already have it here. And it works pretty good. It's pretty tough stuff. I'm just going to lay it flat over the back. Tie that in. Alright, so I have a chunk of goose biot right here, and that's going to be folded over the top. Next, we want to create the actual thorax. So I've got a bunch of peacock curl. There's just Cabela's peacock curl. Whenever I wrap this stuff on, I like to do like 2 or 3 strands. I'll probably do 3 for this one to give the body some good volume. So I've got 3 peacock strands, kind of push them all together. If it snip off the end pieces here, because that's where they actually went into the feather stem. Tie those in. Alright. Have the thread up towards the bead, and then you take those 3 strands. This is where you can create as much volume in the body as you want. If you want a lot of bulk in the front, which I think I tend to prefer, you can wrap it a whole bunch more. If you want it really lean, then just wrap it a few times. I'm going to create a good solid body there. I'm going to tie that off right behind the hook, or sorry, right behind the bead. Just like that. So that's what we have so far. And now what I do is, you don't have to do this, but I prefer to do this. Add a little leg to it. So these are just Hungarian partridge feathers. I've got a pile of these, so next time I see you I can give you a bunch of them if you want. All I'm going to do is I'm going to take half of the feather and strip it off the stem. So I'm going to grab half of it, I'm going to peel it off the stem. So grab onto it and peel it off the stem. This just gives it a little bit more life. Alright, so that's what we have there. I don't know if you can see that, but just a few little strands. I'm going to tie it onto this one side of the fly. Okay, good. I'll take the other side and I'll strip off a few more strands. Alright, you see that there? So now I have just the other side, just those fibers. They look like little legs. They got little bands on them and everything. And all I'm going to do is lay that along the side of the fly and tie it on that other side. Alright, right behind the bead. Okay, I'll trim off the ends. Like I said, you don't have to put legs on, or you can do different color legs on it. You can do whatever you really want, but I prefer these Hungarian partridge feathers. They look real lifelike. Alright, so you're almost done. That's what you have so far from the top. I don't know if you can see that very well. Let's focus on the right spot. And all you gotta do is take this goose bite out that I'd laid back and just pull it forward over the thorax. It creates like the casing, the shell over the top of the thorax that these insects tend to have. Tie that in. Snip off the excess. That's what you have so far. I don't know if you can see that very well. See how these tail feathers tend to splay out in the back? It's exactly what we want. It looks a lot more lifelike. You could make them a little bit shorter. I made those pretty long. Take your whip finisher. Do a quick whip finish. And like I usually do, I do 2 different whip finishes to make sure it's extra secure. Snip it off. And then what I like to do with these kind of flies that have any kind of a casing on them, that's usually the weak spot. I just put a good line of epoxy over the top of the back, including the thorax. And when that hardens, it just gives a little bit more strength. So hopefully that works for you. Good luck.